And I was like, there is no possible way that there could be a coaching hire that makes me laugh as hard as I did when I saw that Arthur Smith went to Ohio State. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers said, hold my beer. What are you doing? Why are you hiring Mike McCarthy to be your head coach? This is an organization that said that we're tired of finishing over 500 every single year, and we're tired of having an early exit from the playoffs. You know what we want in Pittsburgh? We need something different. All you did was hire a fatter version of Mike Tomlin. What are you doing? Mike McCarthy is not nearly as good of a head coach as what Mike Tomlin is. It's not even close. Mike McCarthy is the exact tirade I went over a couple of weeks ago when it came to reusing NFL head coaches. You hired Mike McCarthy because he's from Pittsburgh, so you guys can go 9-8 again next year, barely sneak into the playoffs, and get your butts bounced once again? That's the change you want in your organization? There is no way that Mike McCarthy is going to handle the locker room the same way that Mike Tomlin did. There is no way. Do you understand how difficult it is to have a franchise and a coach that never finishes under 500 and always has a shot at the playoffs? I understand you're Pittsburgh and maybe you have different standards. How many NFL fans out there, if I told you that I'll give you a head coach for the next 10 years, you will always finish over 500 and you will always have a shot at the playoffs, but you may never win a Super Bowl? A majority of fans would absolutely take that. They would absolutely take that. With all of the talent that he's had in Dallas, he had a record of 6-10, 12-5, 12-5, 12-5, 7-10. Those years that Dallas finished 12-5 and won the division, where did they go in the playoffs? Remember a couple of years ago when they got bounced in the first round by the wild card Packers at home? Remember that? Good job with your 12-5 records, Mike McCarthy. Where'd the Cowboys go? So you fired Mike Tomlin because he wasn't winning Super Bowls, because he was getting bounced in the first round of the playoffs, finishing over 500 every single year, to hire a guy that's older than Mike Tomlin that does the same exact thing. But you know what Mike Tomlin has done over the last several years? He has kept your team, your organization, and your locker room from being the laughingstock of the NFL. Because at least Mike Tomlin controlled Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown and George Pickens and all these other divas that go elsewhere and become absolute lunatics that can't even keep their head on straight. At least you had a guy that could control the locker room. You really think Mike McCarthy is going to come in and do that? Is it Mike Tomlin's fault that the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't plan for life after Ben Roethlisberger? What have you all been doing at the quarterback position for the last several years? You play in a division that has Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. And y'all have been playing spin the bottle at the quarterback position for several years now because you didn't plan for life after Ben Roethlisberger. Is that Mike Tomlin's fault? Is it Mike Tomlin's fault that y'all don't know what you're doing at the quarterback position? No. You have all of these younger coaches out there that could give life to your team, to your organization, to the players, and you go with the 62-year-old reused head coach that couldn't win anything in Dallas with Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, Zeke Elliott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, and some pretty decent defenses. Couldn't do anything in the playoffs there either. So you brought in the same exact type of guy? How stupid of a hire. All of these great head coaching candidates out there right now, and that is your choice. You know why? Because McCarthy's from Pittsburgh. That's why they hired him. And I'm sure that's part of the reason why Mike Tomlin was kind of done in Pittsburgh, because he was tired of hearing fans year after year get upset with him when he's doing the most that he can with his teams. Again, he doesn't have a quarterback. Let's talk about that real quick. Ben Roethlisberger dealt with some injuries. Ben Roethlisberger retires after the 2021 season. You had Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky on your team as your quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett, drafted in the first round, plays 13 games, throws 7 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Trubisky threw 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So that was in 2022. In 2023, you had Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Mitchell Trubisky. Kenny Pickett threw 6 touchdowns that season. In 2024, you decide to go with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Your answer to Ben Roethlisberger was Kenny Pickett, but you knew that Ben Roethlisberger was on his last leg and had been on his last leg for a while. So to not plan in advance was terrible on the Steelers' part. And that's not on Mike Tomlin. You've got a GM, a front office, and an ownership group that should have recognized Ben Roethlisberger is probably done in 2 to 3 years. You should have drafted a quarterback then. You could have had Jalen Hurts in the second round in 2020. Hurts could have sat behind Roethlisberger for 2 to 3 years and then would have been ready to go. How much different do you think the Pittsburgh organization looks right now if they would have drafted Jalen Hurts instead of Chase Claypool? Kareem, I mean, look at Green Bay, right? You hit the nail on the head, right? Brett Favre did not love that Aaron Rodgers was drafted, but you know what? Green Bay's been highly successful since then. Aaron Rodgers didn't love that they drafted Jordan Love, but you know what? Green Bay's been successful since then. They continue to set themselves up for success because they know when to draft a quarterback. Terry, I will agree with you there. The decision for Matt Canada and Arthur Smith to be the team's offensive coordinator the last couple of years, I think was poor decision making. I will say that for Mike Tomlin. But that inevitably could have been a huge issue.
Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game.